Imagine being the most famous woman on earth, adored by millions, and dying alone. August 4th, 1962, Marilyn Monroe's final night. The world was told it was suicide. But what if it wasn't? The next morning, Marilyn Monroe was found dead, lying naked on her bed, clutching a telephone. Her death was declared an overdose. But 6 decades later, the world still asks, what really happened that night? Was it suicide, an accident, or something far darker? Because behind the glamour, behind that iconic smile, were secrets, powerful enough to shake the White House and expose the underbelly of American power. Tonight, we dive deep into the final hours of Marilyn Monroe's life, uncovering new details and testimonies that claim this mystery has finally been solved. A star made and broken by Hollywood. Before we unravel the darkness of her final night, we must understand the woman the world fell in love with and how that love destroyed her. Marilyn Monroe, born Norma Jean Mortensen in 1926, had a childhood defined by abandonment, foster homes, and instability. Her mother Gladys suffered from mental illness, and her father was unknown. From a young age, Norma Jean sought love and validation, a need Hollywood would later exploit. By her 20s, she transformed herself into Marilyn Monroe, a name as golden as the curls that framed her face. Films like Gentlemen Prefer Blondes and The 7-Year Itch made her a global icon. Her beauty was ethereal, her presence magnetic. But the industry saw her as a commodity, not a person. Beneath the laughter and fame, Marilyn was struggling with insomnia, depression, and a dependency on barbiturates prescription sedatives that would later become central to her death. Each night she chased sleep with pills and woke to the same emptiness fame couldn't fill. Yet behind the fragile public image, Marilyn was intelligent and ambitious. She fought the studio system, started her own production company, and demanded creative control rare for a woman in the 1950s. But her independence made her enemies. And her private life, especially her relationships with President John F. Kennedy and his brother, Attorney General Robert Kennedy, made her dangerous. The night of August 4th, timeline of chaos. That final night in Brentwood remains one of the most dissected timelines in Hollywood history. According to official reports, Marilyn spent the evening at home. Her housekeeper, Eunice Murray, was present, along with her psychiatrist, Dr. Ralph Greenson, and her physician, Dr. Hyman Engelberg. Around 7:30 p.m., Greenson reportedly left after checking on her emotional state. He claimed she seemed upset, but not suicidal. Around 8 p.m., Marilyn spoke with her close friend, Peter Lawford, the brother-in-law of the Kennedys. Lawford later claimed she sounded strange, slurring her words and saying, "Say goodbye to the president and say goodbye to yourself because you're a nice guy." It was the last time anyone spoke with her while alive. By midnight, her lights were still on, and the housekeeper said she felt something was wrong. She called Dr. Greenson, who arrived and broke into the locked bedroom window. At 3:30 a.m., Marilyn Monroe was found dead with her face down, naked, holding a telephone, with an empty bottle of Nembutal, a barbiturate, by her bed. At 4:25 a.m., Dr. Engelberg officially pronounced her dead. The autopsy concluded probable suicide by overdose. But the inconsistencies began piling up almost immediately. The inconsistencies that never added up. The official story sounds neat too neat. Marilyn overdosed. End of story. But the evidence paints a much darker, more confusing picture. First, no pill residue was ever found in her stomach. Toxicology reports showed extremely high levels of Nembutal in her blood and chloral hydrate in her liver, suggesting an injection or enema, not ingestion. Second, witnesses kept changing their stories. The housekeeper, Eunice Murray, gave contradictory statements, at first saying she discovered Marilyn around midnight, then later admitting she might have called for help hours earlier. Third, police weren't called until hours after Marilyn's body was found. Why the delay? Who was cleaning up in that window of time? And perhaps most chilling of all, multiple witnesses claim Robert Kennedy was in Los Angeles that night, despite official records saying otherwise. The Kennedys, secrets, and danger. By 1962, Marilyn Monroe's connections with the Kennedy brothers were an open secret. She had reportedly been romantically involved with President John F. Kennedy, and later with Robert Kennedy. For months before her death, her friends claimed she was distraught. She felt used and discarded by both men, and she had begun threatening to go public. A journalist named Dorothy Kilgallen, who later died mysteriously herself, claimed that Marilyn was planning a press conference to reveal everything. She allegedly kept a red diary containing political secrets, conversations overheard from the Kennedys, and notes about Cuba, nuclear policy, and other state matters. For a woman like Marilyn, knowing too much could be just as dangerous as loving the wrong man. One chilling account from Los Angeles detective Jack Clemens, the first officer on the scene, stated that when he arrived, he immediately sensed a cover-up. The body, he said, looked staged. There were no signs of vomit or struggle, and everything seemed too clean. He also claimed the housekeeper was washing sheets when he entered hours after the death had supposedly occurred. So, what were they hiding? The theory of silencing. As the years passed, investigators, journalists, and biographers uncovered fragments of the same haunting theory. Marilyn Monroe didn't overdose, but she was silenced. According to multiple accounts, Robert Kennedy visited Marilyn that evening with two men from the LAPD, or possibly intelligence services. The argument turned heated. She accused him of betrayal, of ending their affair, of using her. She allegedly threatened to expose their secrets, the red diary among them. Moments later, things spiraled out of control. Whether it was an accidental overdose administered by injection or something more deliberate, Marilyn Monroe would not live to see the morning. The Los Angeles coroner, Dr. Thomas Noguchi, privately admitted that certain evidence was missing, including organs that could have revealed how the barbiturates entered her system. Those samples were never found. Her phone records vanished, her diary disappeared, and with it, perhaps, the truth itself. The missing hours. Between midnight and 3 a.m., there are nearly 3 missing hours in Marilyn Monroe's official timeline. What happened during that window? According to the 2023 documentary sources, that's when the cleanup took place. Marilyn may have died earlier, possibly around 10:30 p.m., and her body was repositioned to look like a suicide. Witnesses reported hearing helicopters over Brentwood that night, while neighbors claimed they saw suspicious men entering and leaving the property. A paramedic named James Hall later claimed he and his partner were called to Marilyn's house before police arrived. He swore that she was still alive when they got there unconscious, but breathing, and that a man who resembled Robert Kennedy was present. Shortly after, they were told to leave, and when they returned, she was dead. If that testimony holds true, Marilyn Monroe might have been alive when help first arrived, and someone ensured she didn't survive. The final calls and the red diary. Another strange detail, the phone. Marilyn was found clutching it tightly. She had been making calls that night to Peter Lawford, to friends, and possibly to journalists. It's believed her last attempt was to reach someone for help, but the line went dead. And then the red diary. That mysterious notebook that contained political secrets vanished without a trace. The LAPD denied ever seeing it. Friends swore it existed. Even the CIA's declassified files from 1962 make indirect references to personal materials belonging to Monroe. Some theorists believe the diary was confiscated and destroyed to erase all traces of what she knew. Others think it remains hidden somewhere, a relic of the most scandalous cover-up in American pop culture. The truth emerges. In recent years, forensic experts have revisited the evidence using modern technology. A 2022 reanalysis of autopsy photos and reports suggests the drug levels in her blood could not have come from oral ingestion alone. Instead, They indicate either injection or rectal administration, methods Marilyn could not have performed by herself. That single detail changes everything. It suggests she wasn't alone when she died. This aligns with what witnesses like Norman Jeffries, a handyman who worked in her home, later confessed that she had received a shot earlier that evening, supposedly for calming nerves. But what if that shot was the one that killed her? Newly surfaced recordings from private investigators hired by the Kennedy family allegedly captured Marilyn's conversations that week, where she threatened to hold a press conference about her affairs and political secrets. The tapes, long buried, add fuel to what many have believed all along. Marilyn Monroe was silenced because she knew too much. 60 years later, the mystery of Marilyn Monroe's final hours still haunts Hollywood. The pieces of evidence, missing organs, conflicting timelines, powerful connections point to a conclusion darker than the official narrative. Perhaps the real tragedy isn't just how she died, but how the truth was buried with her. Marilyn once said, "I don't mind living in a man's world, as long as I can be a woman in it." But in her final hours, even that was taken away from her. Her death marked the end of innocence in Hollywood, the moment when glamour cracked, revealing the rot beneath. And though the world has moved on, the mystery still lingers, whispering through every black and white photo, every flickering frame of her films. Maybe we'll never know the whole truth, or maybe we already do, because sometimes the most powerful silence is the one that was forced.